The real reason you're not improving. What if the reason you are not improving has nothing to do with discipline, intelligence, or motivation? What if the real problem is that you are doing exactly what serious learners are told to do, and it is quietly slowing you down? Think about the last skill you tried to learn. Maybe it was coding, public speaking, video editing, sales, writing, trading, piano, or finally understanding Excel without wanting to launch your laptop into space. What did you do first? You probably opened YouTube. You watched one beginner tutorial, then another, then a complete guide, then a 47-minute masterclass from a guy with suspiciously perfect lighting. And for a moment, it felt productive. You were learning. You were taking notes. You were becoming the type of person who says, "I'm optimizing my learning system," which usually means, I have 19 tabs open and no actual results. But here is the uncomfortable truth. Most people do not fail because they learn too little. They fail because they learn too much before they do enough. That sounds backwards, but by the end of this video, it will make perfect sense. I'm going to show you why consuming more information can make you worse, how your brain gets overloaded during skill acquisition, and the simple practice system that lets you improve faster without burning out. And stay until the end, because I'll give you a practical ratio you can use today to know exactly when to stop watching tutorials and start doing the work. Welcome to Rewire Your Brain. And today, we're going to talk about the learning mistake that makes smart people look slow. Section 1. The illusion of fast learning. The internet has created a dangerous illusion. We confuse access to information with acquisition of skill. Those are not the same thing. Having access to 1,000 guitar lessons does not make you a guitarist. Watching 100 videos about charisma does not make you charismatic. And reading every productivity book on earth does not automatically make you productive. It may, however, make you extremely good at recommending apps nobody asked for. A skill is not something you know. A skill is something you can do under pressure, with consistency, in the real world. That difference matters. Knowing what to do is cheap. Doing it when your brain is tired, your emotions are loud, and the situation is messy. That is the actual skill. Most beginners think the path looks like this. First, learn all the theory. Then, when you finally feel ready, start practicing. But that is the trap. Because the more theory you collect, the more moving parts your brain has to manage when you finally try to perform. Imagine learning how to drive by reading the entire car manual, watching 8 defensive driving courses, memorizing every road sign, studying engine mechanics, and then sitting behind the wheel for the first time. Technically, you know a lot. Practically, you are a public safety concern. That is what happens with most skills. People bury themselves in information, then wonder why execution feels chaotic. And here is the first key idea. The fastest learners are not the ones who consume the most theory. They are the ones who convert theory into experience before their brain gets clogged. But to understand why, we need to talk about your brain's learning budget. Section 2. Your brain has a budget. Your brain is powerful, but it is not unlimited. When you learn a new skill, your mind has to process multiple things at once. What you are doing, why you are doing it, whether it is working, what went wrong, what to adjust, and how not to panic, because being a beginner is basically emotional cardio. This mental capacity is limited. When the load is too high, performance collapses. You have experienced this. Someone teaches you something new and gives you 7 instructions at once. Your brain does not become inspired. It becomes a frozen browser with too many tabs open. You hear the first instruction. You kind of process the second. By the 5th, you are nodding like you understand, while internally, your brain is printing smoke. This is why beginners feel stupid. But most of the time, they are not stupid. They are overloaded. Every new piece of theory adds weight. Every new rule adds complexity. Every advanced tip adds another decision point. Let's say you are learning public speaking. A beginner might try to remember, stand tall, make eye contact, vary your tone, pause for emphasis, move your hands naturally, tell a story. Avoid saying, control your breathing. smile, and somehow don't look like a hostage reading a ransom note. That is too much. The brain cannot consciously perform all of that at the same time, so it crashes into awkwardness. The solution is not to learn everything first. The solution is to learn one principle, practice it until it becomes easier, then layer the next principle on top. And this is where most people resist the truth. You have to slow down to speed up. Section 3. Slow learning is fast learning. Slow learning does not mean lazy learning. It means controlled input, deliberate practice, and fast feedback. Most people do the opposite. They binge theory, delay practice, then practice randomly with no feedback. That is not a learning system. That is intellectual tourism. You visited the skill. You took pictures. You did not move in. Fast learners use a different loop. First, they take in a small amount of theory. Second, they apply it immediately. Third, they observe what happened. Fourth, they adjust and repeat. That loop is what turns information into competence. For example, if you are learning video editing, do not watch a 4-hour advanced editing course before creating anything. Learn one concept, cutting on action. Then edit one short clip using only that principle. Watch it back. See where it feels awkward. Fix it. Then do another. Once that becomes natural, add sound design. Then pacing. Then transitions. Then color. Layer by layer. This is how the brain builds skill. It does not become powerful because you throw more information at it. It becomes powerful because repeated action turns conscious steps into automatic patterns. Think of it like building a keyboard shortcut inside your brain. At first, every action requires conscious attention. Later, it becomes automatic. That is why experts look effortless. They are not thinking about every tiny step. Their brain has compressed years of practice into patterns. But now comes the next question. If too much theory is bad, and blind practice is also bad, what is the right balance? That is where the theory-practice ratio comes in. Section 4. The theory-practice ratio. Here is a simple rule. For every 1 hour of theory, aim for at least 5 hours of practice. Not because 5 is a magic number carved into a mountain by the gods of productivity. It is a practical starting point. Theory gives direction. Practice creates adaptation. If you consume 1 hour of content about a skill, you need enough real-world repetition for that idea to become usable. Otherwise, your brain files it under. Interesting information I will forget by Thursday. Now, this ratio can change depending on the skill. Some skills are highly cognitive, like programming, writing, strategy, math, or trading. You need theory, but you still need application. In fact, application is where the theory becomes understandable. Other skills are more physical or performance-based, like dancing, speaking, sports, or drawing. In those, practice may need to be even higher. But the principle stays the same. Do not let your theory intake exceed your practice capacity. This is where ambitious people sabotage themselves. They say, "I'm serious, so I'll study 2 hours every day." Great. But can you practice 10 hours for every 2 hours of theory? If not, you may be building a knowledge traffic jam. A better approach is to limit theory intentionally. Watch one tutorial. Read one chapter. Learn one concept. Then ask, what is the smallest real-world action that forces me to use this today? If you are learning sales, write 10 outreach messages. If you are learning writing, write 1 page using the technique. If you are learning a language, record yourself speaking for 2 minutes. If you are learning trading, backtest one setup carefully instead of watching another guru explain market structure beside a rented Lamborghini. Practice makes theory honest. It exposes what you actually understand. And this is important. Feeling like you understand is not the same as being able to execute. Execution is the truth serum of learning. Section 5. The habit formation signal. So how do you know when you are ready for more theory? You look for one signal, reduced cognitive effort. In plain English, the skill starts feeling easier. Not perfect. Easier. When a part of the skill becomes more automatic, it stops consuming as much mental energy. That frees up capacity for the next layer. Let's go back to public speaking. At first, maintaining eye contact might feel terrifying. You are trying to remember your words, control your voice, and look at people without mentally apologizing for existing. But after enough focused practice, eye contact becomes easier. You no longer spend 80% of your brain power thinking about where to look. Now you can add vocal variety. Once that becomes easier, you can add storytelling, then pacing, then audience interaction. This is layering. And layering is how complex skills are built. The mistake is trying to install all layers at once. That is like trying to build the roof, plumbing, Wi-Fi, an emotional support espresso machine before pouring the foundation. It does not work. Use 3 questions to check if you are ready for more theory. Can I perform the current step without intense mental strain? Can I notice mistakes while I am doing it? Can I correct some mistakes without needing someone to stop me every time? If the answer is yes, you are probably ready to add the next layer. If the answer is no, you do not need more information. You need more reps, but there is one final piece. Because practice without feedback can turn you into someone who is confidently bad. And nobody wants that. Especially not your future self. Section 6. Feedback makes practice work. Not all practice is equal. Repeating something badly for 100 hours does not create mastery. It creates a well-trained mistake. That is why feedback matters. Feedback turns practice into learning. But feedback does not always need to come from a coach. It can come from data, recording yourself, comparing your work to a strong example, testing results, or reviewing what happened immediately after an attempt. The key is speed. The faster you receive feedback, the faster your brain can adjust. If you are learning writing, share drafts and study where readers lose interest. If you are learning a language, record yourself and catch pronunciation errors. If you are learning fitness technique, film your movement. If you are learning content creation, look at retention graphs, comments, and rewatch your own video with brutal honesty. Yes, it hurts. Yes, you may discover you say basically every 6 seconds. Growth is not always glamorous. Here is the system. Learn one concept. Practice it deliberately. Get feedback. Adjust. Repeat until it becomes easier. Then add the next concept. That is the full loop. It is simple, but it is not sexy. Which is probably why the internet prefers selling 10 hacks to master anything overnight. But the brain does not care about hacks. The brain cares about load, repetition, feedback, and consolidation. You cannot cheat biology, but you can work with it. The 7-day challenge. So here is your challenge for the next 7 days. Pick one skill, not 5. 1. Choose one small concept inside that skill. Then use the 1 to 5 rule. For every 1 unit of theory, do at least 5 units of practice. If you watch a 20-minute lesson, do at least 100 minutes of application. Keep the practice focused. Track what feels difficult. Get feedback as fast as possible. And do not add new theory until the current layer starts becoming easier. This is how you avoid theory overload. This is how you build automaticity. This is how you stop feeling like a motivated beginner and start becoming a dangerous learner. The people who improve the fastest are not always the smartest. They are the ones who respect how the brain actually learns. They do less pretending, more practicing, and they turn knowledge into behavior before it evaporates. So the next time you feel the urge to watch just one more tutorial, ask yourself one question: have I earned more theory through practice? If the answer is no, close the tab. Your future skill is not waiting in another video. It is waiting in the next repetition. And once you understand that, learning any skill starts feeling less like a mystery and more like a system. A system you can use again and again. And that is how you rewire your brain.